It took about 3 days to print these four. The infill is 15%. It's not too much, not too little. It's a very expensive filament. Also, once again, it's probably stronger than foam. Maybe not, doesn't matter, because it's going to be reinforced with composite material. In my case, epoxy, basalt. Could be fiberglass, polyester, whatever. Doesn't matter. It's going to be much stronger than it is. And the reason for the smooth edges is because you don't want to have straight angles when you're dealing with fiber of any sort, because that's how fibers break. They just get twisted, they end up being at an angle that they're not supposed to withstand. That is why it's going to be glued to the bilge, and then I'll add a lot of epoxy silica mix just to make sure that the transition to the bilge is smooth. Yeah, and that should be enough. Anyway, this little I guess bracket, it's to make sure that I'm putting them in the right spot. So these go in the back. They will be attached last, but first these two will go front left, front right, and the shaft is here, so we're looking from the aft right now. And this thing has a socket for the prop cap that I used to cover the prop shaft and scan, so there's that. And it has two, I guess, indents, sockets for these parts. So they go like this, and then pushed all the way in. And when I think that's the other way. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's going to be left. This is going to be right. Yeah. So anyway, they go and they will end up exactly where I need them to be. So this way I will set the correct distance as modeled on my computer, and between them and from the prop shaft. So yeah, this is just to make sure that they end up glued where they need to be glued. So this is still curing. Installed it about 10 minutes ago. In a couple of hours I'm gonna take an oscillating tool and just cut this thing out. Why? Because there's no way to really get it out at this point. It's trapped between the prop shaft and the supports, and of course it's because I'm a genius and I didn't make it lock and hold the supports from this side. So instead of just, you know, like, attaching it from this side and then pulling it off the prop shaft and out of the supports, of course I decided to put it between the prop shaft and the supports. Maybe it's better in some way, I don't really know, doesn't matter too much. So this is as precise as it needs to be. I might be a little bit off, some degrees, some millimeters here and there, but none of that matters, because after it's glassed, sanded, you know, it's never gonna be as precise as the scan or as the 3D design that I've made. But the alignment is really gonna happen using these engine mounts. So as long as I'm within a quarter of an inch, a couple of millimeters, you know, it's not a rocket. I'm not going to space, you know. This needs to be precise and strong, but it's a boat. So, and also, you know, yes, I do have a rigid coupling, so it requires a lot of precision, but then again, all that is going to be tuned when I lower the motor down and start adjusting the engine mounts. The supports are attached to the rails. At this point, the assembly is done. I have these two. It's the back supports, obviously, because the front ones are now attached to my boat. And there's a little bit of a wiggle. It's because that's where the reinforcement is going to go. So that's the 2 millimeter gap, and I'm going to put some padding in there so that I don't really have to because they're exactly where they should be. I'm gonna do it anyway just because I care. And same goes for the supports that are attached to my boat. I'm gonna add padding to them to mimic the fiberglass thickness, and I'll just attach it to the front supports. Then I'll make sure to glue them exactly where they are supposed to be. And the main thing is, well, it should be like this technically. The motor is going to be in between. So the coolest thing is that once it's glued, I'll know that the rails will love the distance and location and angle and everything, because I'm essentially determining the position and angle and everything using the rails that will be using these supports. The mysterious blue tape, it's spacers. They mimic the thickness of fiberglass, and that's for me to put the rails on, these rails, and I just need to glue the supports in the back. So these are also spaced so they no longer move, and that's as close as it's possible to what it's going to be when it's mounted, like officially mounted. So yeah, I'm gluing the back supports today, and once it's glued, I'll be able to remove those spacers and I'll start reinforcing it with fiberglass, and after that, you know, it's just going to be mounted permanently. So this is what it looks like when the rails are sitting on the supports. There's a 2mm padding added to mimic the fiberglass thickness, and currently it's gluing to my hull, the back supports, and the two little sticks that I printed. It's just to make sure that the rails are parallel. So once it cures, we'll remove the rails, reinforce the supports, and then put the rails back on and bolt them down, and that's going to be my platform for the motor. This took me about a week. Not even the reinforcement itself, but the epoxy that I had to put to create the curvature. That was a lot of work, mostly sanding. As you can see, there's still a lot of dust left that I need to clean up. It's not carbon fiber, no, it's basalt from this Belgian company. It's much closer to S-class than carbon, but this should be enough for my 120-pound motor with the coolant and the coupling, you know. I believe it should be good enough. So the next step, I'm just gonna mount the rails, then add the motor. Looks nice and shiny. It's gonna be a lot of work to align my motor with the prop shaft, but after the motor is down there, I will move it a little bit forward and attach the coupling, and then move it aft, and it should slide onto that shaft. After that, it's gonna be a lot of work aligning it, but eventually it will be done, and I'll have my electric propulsion working. It was actually easier than I expected, and the shafts are almost aligned. I can tell you that they're very close to being parallel, and it seems to be holding. Nothing is really breaking. The boat is still afloat. So yeah, this is what it looks like, and it's been months of work. I hope to couple it today. I'll need to do some magic with these engine mounts, but otherwise I'm very close to finally having electric propulsion on this boat. The coupling is on. It's not yet secured, but it's attached to the motor, and we have to do a lot of alignment still, and while I'm coupling it, I'll just make sure that the motor is comfortable. that's the best I can do. I don't mean to brag, but remember that 3mm distance from the prop shaft cap? There it is. So this actually came out better than I expected, as most things that I do, because I have a low self-esteem, but I think it's gonna work. The only problem is the diameter of that prop shaft, because I've messed up. I thought it was 30, turned out to be 1/8 inch. I'll figure something out. There's always a way. Anyway, so next thing, I'm coupling it. Once it's coupled, once I'm happy with it, I will secure these bolts, and I'll give it a twist. And now it's coupled. I can actually turn this, and as you can see, it turns the prop shaft. So I'm gonna go turn and just film, and let's see what it looks like.